brothers, sisters, and siblings. Welcome to Penn Sunday School starring Penn Gillette. My name is Michael Cadeau. Matt Donnelly's on the road with Fifth Magic Dragon today, and Penn and I are broadcasting from Show Creator Studios South in Las Vegas. As Impossible Dream becomes reality, we're going to talk more about Penn working on a detective novel and reading a library full of detective fiction. And maybe we'll get to Stephen Banks' new book, Middle School Bites. Here he is preaching love, Mr. Penn Gillette.
Brothers, sisters, comma, siblings, not and siblings.
Okay.
I meant to tell you that last show.
Right.
Brothers, sisters, siblings, I think is the most respectful.
Brothers, sisters, siblings. Can we just go with siblings?
We could go with siblings, but I don't like the rhythm of it.
Okay.
So we'll throw that in there as an artifact. We'll call that an artifact.
Okay.
Yeah, I read The Last Good Kiss, right?
The Last Good Kiss.
And it's James Crumley.
Yes.
I just finished that last night.
Right. And again, detective novels are about the seedy, dark side of humanity.
Well, that's what bothered me. I loved the way it was written. I love the fact that in detective fiction, there's no fear of overstating a metaphor. There's no fear of writing that calls attention to itself. There's no Hemingway, It's just very, very full of itself, and I love that. I love that.
I can see that.
But in this particular case, it's so. I love the book. I absolutely adored it, every page of it, and it rocketed me through. And I just was interested in every turn and twist. But your point is well taken, because the turn is that this he's trying to find a runaway woman who left when she was like 18, left her home, and all the harrowing stuff she's involved in, all the horrible stuff they're getting out of, is the fact that she had sex and she did porn, and the detective is repulsed by her porn, as is everybody around there. The idea that she's wearing a blonde wig and a man she doesn't know well is fondling her breast is covered as an absolute nightmare, and the proof of her how she's degraded and doesn't care about herself. Meanwhile, the detective is constantly on speed and coke and drunk, drinking like a quart of whiskey a day or something.
Which, by the way, I think we should start. I've been watching police shows a lot, and they all drink a lot of whiskey to celebrate things.
They do.
Must be something good in it. I mean, I can't imagine. But.
And, great writers are, I read a little bit on the Wikipedia about James Crumley. It said he did cocaine every day and drank whiskey all day long.
When I was in Williams, Arizona, the people at the bar next door were screaming "woohoo" at the top of their lungs almost every day. I can't remember the last time I screamed "woohoo" at the top of my lungs.
Yeah,
because I was excited. You know what I mean? Woo! Might do it as a joke like that, but because I felt woohoo. No, no.
So in my detective book, I'm making sure that all the sex is celebrated. Mm-hmm. I'm having a blast because my detective is bisexual. Uh-huh. So I'm getting to write gay scenes, which is really fun, terrific, and very, very sex positive. Mm-hmm. And my detective is also, because I just can't write high and drunk. I don't know anything about it. So consequently, although some of the characters you could believe are doing drugs or drinking, I'm not looking into that, because it's like living on Mars. Yeah, I know nothing about it, And I do believe very strongly that one of the things you're trying to do in your writing is to see yourself through another person's eyes. Try to see what it's like to live inside someone else's body. There's a thing that just obsesses me more and more the past year or so. I don't remember where I first read it, but I've read it since. It's been popping out at me that people tend to think that their own decisions and choices are situational and everybody else's are character, which is really interesting to me. And if you start thinking of it in a different way, if you think that when someone acts a certain way, that that's not the kind of person they are, but that's the kind of situation they're in, changes everything.
Yeah.
Changes everything. So my book is very, very obsessed with that. I'm also bringing in, and I'm not sure I got permission. We all know Norman Beck, who's been on the show. I wrote to him and asked him permission to make Norman Beck with the name Norman Beck nice. in my book as a character and tell one of the stories I love that he tells. And I then wrote a lot, 6,000 words of the book is about Norman Beck. And I'm afraid to send it to him. I don't know. Because when you write about somebody, to them, it could look very much like you're writing exactly what you feel about them. But to you, it's like you're building on what they are, Okay. Like the other book I'm working on, in the birds sang Hola Cola.
Yeah, sure.
That other book that I want to write, my Moby Dick, Lucky Dick book, has Godot as a character.
Yeah.
And I've showed you some of that and working on it. And this book also has, the new book has Piff. Nice. The detective needs to, has a magic question. And the only magician he knows is Piff, who he hired for a birthday party. And he goes to meet Piff, who sends him to Johnny Thompson. Oh. Because it's my fucking book, and Johnny Thompson is alive in my book.
Yeah,
and it's really interesting. Stephen Banks, who is Billy the Mime, who did one of the closers with us on Fool Us.
Yeah,
and who I think have we had Stephen on the show? We've never had him on the show.
I don't think we've ever had him on the show.
Yes, we had him on once.
Oh yeah. And Stephen. I talk to him fairly often. I'm trying, I've also been reading that as you get older, isolation becomes a really big deal. Now, I have a family, so I spend a lot of time with them. But I worry a little bit about I don't spend enough time with friends.
Yeah.
So I've been calling
Me too.
friends a lot, all the time. So I call Stephen Banks now a couple times a week, and we chat. And both of us have written for television. Both of us have written extensively for live performances. Both of us have written for movies. Stephen Banks was the lead head writer on SpongeBob for years and years and years. And
many cartoons, really.
Many, Cat Dog, and created all these cartoons. And but he's also written plays that have been successful, have been produced. With me, he wrote a play called Love Tapes. But he's also written plays that are like, which I love, like high school productions go on, which is great. He flew to Iowa to see a high school production of one of his plays, which was just a crazy experience.
That's a crazy thing.
Yeah. But we were talking about how different it is to write a book. And when I'm writing with Teller, or I'm writing with you, we used to write on Bullshit, you have a bit that you like, right? Mm-hmm. And your collaborators say to you, I don't know does this seem right? And then you make a case for why this is the right thing. You make an argument for it.
Yeah.
And then that argument of why that's in there becomes a psychic footnote. Everybody who is in the room is aware of that argument. And that idea, that graph, that line, that joke, that concept carries with it, this is what Godot said about it.
Yes.
Right? Or it carries with it, this is what Teller said about it. And so going forward, if someone else has an argument against that, they don't make that argument again. The argument is carried with it. It's carried like a Google Doc note. It has that in your head. Now, also, emotionally, once I've made that argument forever. That argument's in my mind. When I'm writing by myself, nothing on the page has been argued for.
Yeah.
Not at a conscious level, right?
Yeah.
There's some exceptions to that. Sometimes you go, well, this should be in here because you talk to yourself about it.
Yeah.
But you don't make cogent arguments for stuff in there, which means I go back and none of the copy on the page carries with it those footnotes. So there's a paragraph that seemed exactly right. And I'm very aware of this. And if I read the paragraph to you or to Teller,
right,
and you said, seems like
this word seems like it'd be better.
No. It seems like a digression here.
Oh,
we're trying to go toward the
bigger
plot,
idea, yeah.
and we're going off here. I don't know if we want it. And then I make an argument. Well, we're trying to teach about our character, and this character shows that this character's here, and that is going to pay off later. We really need this here. And you go, okay. And then we never revisit that because it's in a bubble that is that argument. When I'm writing alone, there's no bubbles. So I go back and there's a paragraph that seemed exactly right. Delete it. And there's no discussion, no argument, no going back.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting how that works, that I don't need to have conversations with myself. It brings the writing to this is a crazy thing to say, but a subverbal level.
Yes.
Even though I'm writing words, the arguments have not been said in words. The argument for each line in there has not been articulated. And that's really interesting. There's also the difference that when I write essays, I try to write from my heart, and I try to write in a way that is at least within parameters consistent with what I believe happened. Now, there are huge cheats on that. There's condensing of time, there's condensing of characters, there's all this stuff. But I try to look back and say, I'm going to write about when I was in the room with Cray Ray, and I started to decide that maybe I would change my diet significantly, right? That's the scene I'm going to write. And I look back and I think about that, and I take huge liberties with the truth. If it were recording, you'd see that I'm cheating. But I go back and say, is this emotionally what was happening?
Writing, is this not just your perception of it, but
is this
how it felt?
Kind of right.
More than how it was.
But no. But when Cray Ray reads this, will it be consistent with what he felt in the room? When Jonesy reads this, will be consistent with what he felt in the room. And when I look back on this, is this close to what I felt happened? Now, when I write fiction, I write exclusively from my point of view. And many, many, many things in the book really happened to me. Many of them. And many of the people I'm describing, even if they don't have the names and stuff, are real people. But it's fiction. So when I don't like what happened in the story, I just change it. And there's no gnawing in the back of my mind like, are you being true?
I should have said.
Exactly.
None of that. I'm going to say.
It's Dorothy Parker.
Yeah.
Fuck you, asshole. Oh, what I should have said was you can lead a horticulture, but you can't make her think.
Yeah.
Hey, fuck you. Oh, what I should have said was, when she said age before beauty, I should have said pearls before swine. But I said, fuck you. It's really an interesting thing. And then Stephen, I was talking to Stephen, and Stephen's just put out a book called Middle School Bites.
Yes.
Middle School Bites. And this is dig how cool this is, right? He went to do a reading at a bookstore in Burbank or something, right? Which is where he's from. And Glendale, those are different places, aren't they? Glendale and Burbank, but who cares? There's a bookstore that I believe is the oldest still surviving full, whatever they do, coldest Tuesday in December in Death Valley.
It's the tallest, not the largest.
Right. But it is in some way touted as the oldest children's bookstore in the country. I don't know. maybe not the first, but the oldest, stuff like that. And the really interesting thing is way back in like 75, he did mime in the window of that bookstore. And now he's back reading his, now this is young adult fiction. Yes. It's our middle school. It's for middle school. It's for 14-year-olds. My children have started reading it. I read about half of it, and I intend to finish it. It is fabulous. Middle School Bites is the name of the book, Stephen Banks. And the premise is very simple. A middle school student on his way to school is bitten by a werewolf, a vampire, and a zombie. And then has to continue going to school as a werewolf, zombie, vampire. He's all of those things. So he's dealing with middle school angst. At the same time, he is also a zombie, werewolf, vampire. Middle School Bites is the name of it. But Stephen also talked about, and as I've gotten older, I have so much less interest in movies and TV.
Yeah.
Like I watch it with my family or with my friends. But if I'm watching movies or TV now, this is so different than I used to be. If no one's talking during the movie, I have no interest in being there. When I go to see Endgame with my children, Avengers Endgame,
right?
I want everybody talking.
Yeah.
I want everybody yelling. When I'm watching, like I watch Blacklist with the movie night people, Jim Spader's thing, and we're sitting there. If it goes 4 minutes without someone yelling something,
smart ass crack,
I'm not interested at all. And when my wife and I sit down to watch a video at the end of the day, and she gets interested in the plot and stops talking about the background action,
you're out.
I have no interest at all. If we're watching a movie or TV now, I want you talking. And I don't even care if it's strangers talking. I want it to be a communal thing, because if I want to just relate to an artist, I want to read.
Yeah.
And there's a really interesting thing of the fact that when you deal with writing TV or movies, or especially live shows, you're dealing with addressing a group of people. You have to be dealing with a group of people. But books are one-on-one.
Yeah.
That goes, you have me and an editor.
Right.
And most of my editing is done by Robbie. So me and a very close friend. And that's it. Publisher puts in some comments and stuff like that, but it's comments. They're not co-writing it. Just there.
Right.
And then when someone's reading it, they're not reading it in a room with people talking. They're reading it very often alone. Very often in a quiet room. It's just,
you make a face that makes it sound like that's creepy.
It's really intense.
That is intense.
It's really
never even thought about writing something in that.
It's really
that
intense.
Intimate level.
And I sit writing that, going, I am trying to get, and it's one of the reasons when you read about or talk about sexting.
Right.
One of the reasons that sexting seems to have such incredible power is it's very different from sex, but it's someone else coming into your mind. I mean, I write on my computer. So when I'm reading email on my computer, in some sense, my mind sees that as an extension of my mind. What's happening in my computer that's where I think. So emails in a certain way are more intimate to me. And I'm talking about business emails, art emails, when Teller writes me something about something changing in the show. It's somehow more intimate and more direct when it's in my computer than if he's talking to me face to face.
Yeah, and part of that is because they have had the moment to distill their thoughts and to be careful.
Yes, but also the fact that it's happening in that space. And with written words, they cannot exist without me investing. Okay, if you put something on television, okay, and you're watching it on a screen, that stuff in some sense happens without my investment.
Of course.
But when I run my eyes over a book, I have to invest my imagination, and I have to suck that in, and I have to decode it.
Yes.
There's decoding that happens.
Yeah, you have to understand it.
And I have to create it.
Yeah.
I have to create it with you.
Run the picture.
You give me the words, and I have to create it. And it's all this stuff is said 1,000 times about literature. But also, what I don't like is that they always tell you in movies and television, show don't tell.
Yes.
Show don't tell. I like tell don't show. You have
always liked tell don't show. You're not a visual artist.
No, I'm not. But when I'm watching Joker,
yeah,
I watch that, and you're watching the activities of the character. I long to hear that character's inner monologue. I'm dying to hear what that character's thinking. It's why the Blade Runner with narration, as it was
better for you.
Much better. It's still not good.
Right.
Still, I don't like it. But without the narration, I couldn't understand anything.
So you also have the fascination with words when we're talking about music and songs and lyrics. You know all of the lyrics to every song that I've ever heard, and they matter. When you listen to the music, are you dancing or thinking?
Well, that's changed. When I moved over, I tried, like I have no visual memory, which if you go to my house, it's covered with art because I'm always trying to get a hold of that. So I have the giant Hockney book of all his paintings, or all his paintings from a certain period, whatever. That huge book, it's 3 feet or something. And I try to go through it. Every morning I try to look at 2 or 3 paintings, look carefully. I have a lot of Tony Fitzpatrick's work up.
Yeah.
I have Martin Mull paintings up. I have Stephen Banks paintings up. And I really try to get that visual thing. Same thing with music. I realized when I was in high school that my connection to music was very heavily lyrical.
Yes.
It was poetry. And I tried to reach out with Frank Zappa and some of the other people who were more pure music. And then I get into classical, more Stravinsky and so on. During this century, I've been very, very interested in jazz.
Right.
And
just going the other way.
Jazz is going the other way. So I'm trying. There's nothing natural about my enjoyment of visual, and there's nothing natural about my enjoyment of music without words. But it's still profound and real to me.
Okay.
But when it comes right down to it, I like, not only in my reading do I want to have that personal connection, but I also want stuff told to me. I want to know what the characters are thinking. I want to know what they're feeling, where they're going. And
that's why Nicholson Baker is so good.
Yeah. So good.
That's what he fills in.
Yeah. And when I'm writing, I'll have dialogue and conversations that go without comment, but I very much pop into my fiction.
Do you feel that your characters talk more than you write? When you get going, do you feel like they are just doing it and you're watching?
I have read a zillion times that when you write a book, fiction, plot, that you have to have the whole outline done. Everybody says have the whole outline done, know where you're going. I have never been able to do that.
I can't do that either.
I have to imagine the situation and then fantasy. And I think this is when writers say their characters take over, this is what they're talking about. Then when I'm in that world, then I go back to the beginning and write it again knowing where I'm going. But I think perhaps my outline is done in book form. I have to have the whole book written before I can outline it.
Yeah, exactly. Before you turn it in, you have to take some stuff out instead of filling it out. I've got this outline. I got to take some stuff out of it so it can be a book.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I'm having a lot of fun writing this. And, I was always, my friend Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of author friends. And they talk about their regiment, their style of writing. I start at 8 in the morning, right till noon. Then I take an hour break. Yes. Then I write another 4 hours. 1 cup of coffee, 2 tuna sandwiches, and back to work.
Back to work,
yeah. And a quart of whiskey.
Yeah.
And they have that whole thing. Well, I'm not able to write that way. I do not have the time. I'm doing shows, I'm rehearsing, I'm doing interviews. So now I've been writing. I set my alarm and I write in 30-minute block. And I don't have any time to build up. Everybody else talks about how they spend their first half hour warming. I can't do that. I got to start right away. And I read this thing. I love to do work that I don't have to work on. And I have learned about myself that if I get myself thinking about something, when I then come back to it, I've done all this work during sleeping and talking and hanging that's just done. So I read this thing that said that the mind is more active if something's not finished. So I used to try to be conscientious and say, I'll finish this chapter, or I'll finish at least this paragraph. Mm. And now I set my alarm for 30 minutes. And when the alarm goes off, I close the document. I'm done. And it is like a rock in my shoe. Makes me fucking crazy not to have finished the paragraph. And I come back the next time.
Ready to go.
And open the document. It just flows out because I'm so pissed off that I get stopped in the middle that my mind keeps turning it over. So I've been very, very successful. I try to do 2 or 3 half-hour sessions of writing the book a day, a half-hour session of playing my bass, half-hour session of working on magic every day. That with doing the Penn and Teller show and all that stuff around that. And it's really fun.
It is fun.
It's really good. So,
get out of the backyard and juggle.
Now you said that
the impossible dream.
Yeah, they were going to send you more money for
I did a show for some folks, and after the show, they went, that was so great. We should send you more money. Mm-hmm. Which, first off, amazing thing to say.
Sure.
Crazy thing to say.
Great.
Not a chance in hell it's ever going to happen. I received a check.
They sent you more money.
They sent me more money for a gig that had been done and was completed and contracted, everything done. First in the history of the world.
Probably.
I couldn't believe it.
That's how good you are.
Couldn't believe it. Well,
And now you're filling in for Mac King?
I filled in for Mac King yesterday. Yeah.
Just one show?
Just 2 shows.
Where was Mac?
Mac is off doing a corporate gig somewhere, which is great because the last time I filled in for Mac, it was, the announcement of this, we're really sorry Mac has been injured, and rather than cancel the show, he's brought some friends in to do some magic for you. So
who did that announcement?
Lance Burton.
Right.
That announcement, he got to do it. Any of us would have loved
because he was the boss.
He was the boss. He made that clear. But yesterday was I wasn't going to go out and go, well, Mac got more money, so he's not here today. I thought that wouldn't play as well, so we just left out. Mac is off somewhere else today. We're doing a show,
and it was
a blast.
It was you and
Nick DeFat.
Nick DeFat.
Nick DeFat.
No, it's not DeFat. It's DeFat.
I believe it's Nick DeFat.
Okay.
I haven't called him DeFat. Maybe I'll start trying it.
Nick DeFat.
Nick DeFat.
It's a funny name.
DeFat. It's a good name. But there's really fun. I've had my allergy problems have been bad for the last month.
I got to tell you, Michael Godot, I am so happy to hear that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I haven't had allergy problems. And maybe something's going right for me.
I hope that is the case.
But I would like it to go right for you, too.
I'm trying.
You know why you're getting these allergies?
Chicken.
Yeah, it's chicken.
Chickens.
Goddamn chickens you're eating. But go on.
But you know how I always pretend the unicycle is really scary and hard? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all of a sudden really scary and hard.
Why is that?
My ears are like full of fluid and I'm just off balance.
Oh, geez.
And so now when I'm up there, riding that unicycle and getting ready to juggle those knives, I'm nervous. I'm thinking about it. It's really weird. To make all those jokes about it and then think in my head, yeah, well, you just hope you don't get killed.
Yeah, that's what
you people in the front row, I'm joking about how I might fall on you and kill you. I might fall on you and kill you.
Broken bottle juggling.
Yeah.
I hadn't done it.
Doing it for
I hadn't done it for 2 or 3 years. And then I went to do it for Penn and Friends.
Yeah.
And I do all that stuff about how this is so hard, going, Jesus, this is hard. It's a really hard trick.
It's frightening when the show is really accurate.
So how long did you do?
Mostly accurate.
How long did you do in the show?
20 minutes.
And how long did Nick do?
45.
Okay. And you were the first act out?
No, we broke it up. He did, 15 minutes and then I did 20 and then he did the rest. Mm-hmm. So it was a blast.
And he did a good job?
Really fun. He did a good job. He's good. People like him. He's a funny guy. He's got a couple of nice tricks. He seems like he's a pretty good thinker.
Good crowds?
Yeah. Pretty good crowds. All fun.
And well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Are you going to fill in again in a little?
I am. I'm going to England this week coming up.
I do like Blackpool.
Yesterday, I went yesterday. The show's Wednesday. I went yesterday, flying to Blackpool to do a show for 5,000 magicians, the biggest magic convention in the world.
Blackpool, yeah.
Crazy. I'm looking forward to that.
Always trying to get us there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Is Mac going to be there?
Mac is going.
Who else is going?
Avner, the eccentric.
Oh, yeah.
My friend Raphael Van Herk from Belgium is going. Lance Burton and Fielding West and Keith West are all going.
Are they performing?
They're all performing.
Who's the last one you said?
Keith West.
Who's that?
Keith West is an illusionist from the Midwest.
Oh, yeah.
Who drives our truck. He's got all the props.
Keith Midwest.
These magicians have funny names.
So yeah, that's what's going on. Going to England, and then I race back from England because Mac is extending for a few days and going to Paris with his wife. He's going
to Paris, France, Europe.
With his wife.
Paris,
what a
France,
lovely,
Europe.
delightful thing for him to do. And I get to fill in for 3 days then. So
good. So you rush back and do
I rush back and do some work. Which I'm happy about.
We got crazy times coming up because we shoot the very end of February. Mm-hmm. We shoot Fool Us.
Yeah.
And we've got to do 13 shows in whatever it is, 7 days. And then right before that, we go up to San Francisco to do a corporate gig.
Yeah.
And then we finish that up. And we are doing, I guess it's a secret, I guess I can't talk about it, but a project for Disney Plus.
Nice.
For children. And we're shooting that, I think, in March. We're going to try to. And then in April, we go back to make up our Australia gig. Because we were supposed to be in Australia all of January.
Yeah.
And because of Telly's back, we couldn't.
Yeah.
So we're going to Australia for April. And that'll be fun. We're actually, because of weird shit, we were playing the Sydney Opera House. Right?
Yeah.
And we were the last show in there before they did renovations. So we couldn't be the last show in there because Teller's back, so they're doing the renovations. So now we're playing a bigger theater in Sydney. So we had to give all the money back. We were sold out. Sydney Opera House was sold out, completely sold out, because we were changing venues.
Some stupid little thing of the law required you to give everybody's money back.
Everybody's money back. And now we got to sell it again. Yeah. And the place is bigger. So more people are going to end up seeing us in Australia than would have if we hadn't canceled. And we're also playing Brisbane. That's a place, right?
Yeah, Brisbane's a place.
And we're going back there to play, and it's selling very well. The Australia tickets are on sale.
That's great news.
And it's selling very well. I guess it'll probably sell. They just asked us, as a matter of fact, if we could extend in Sydney for another week.
Wow.
So this will be our first time playing Australia, and I'm looking forward.
I was in Australia with Teller, and a lot of the Australians know Teller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That says something. That's, we were way out in the middle of the boondocks, and people go, "There's Teller."
Yeah.
And, I don't sign many autographs as Penn. I end up doing some as Teller, but never any as Penn.
And it was, so that'll be great. Then we come directly back, and right after I do probably the most important show of my career, which is I will be playing at the Meadows School in the benefit with Penn and Moxie.
Oh, that'll be a good
We
show.
are doing our half-hour show.
I bet that one's sold out.
Yeah, I don't know. I believe it is being sold.
Really?
And we're going to do Volterra and Moxie's thing she did on Fool Us. And then the two of us are going to do a father-daughter card trick.
That'll be great. That's fantastic.
The Illusionists, you know that show that tours around?
I've asked you guys to join them at long last.
They came to Moxie and said, if you get a tight 5 minutes, we'll put you on the Illusionist show.
That's fantastic.
So Moxie's starting her magic career that way.
Jumped off,
But
taken off.
At Meadows, I have to come back and then, while heavily jet lagged, do a show with Mox. And Moxie's keeps saying to me, we've got to work on this show, Dad. We got to work on this show. And I go, Mox, I got Fool Us. We're doing all this stuff. I'm writing a novel. Well, but she goes, but we can't just throw it together. I go, well, we're going to throw it together. You know how you do your homework? That's how we're going to do this show, Mox. It's for your school.
We'll do 90 minutes tomorrow night.
And
one of the vestiges of doing this show in England is that I've been emailing them back and forth, and as part, and I don't know how this happens, as part of the email, you know how Gmail now suggests a response for you. Mm-hmm. Thanks so much, I can't make it.
Yeah,
something like that, because it says London in the heading. Mm-hmm. Now one of my my auto responses, I've become Harry Potter. It's brilliant. Thank you. Which Harry Potter says all the time in the movie. Gmail has decided I'm Harry Potter.
Yeah, my predictive text is frightening.
Yeah, I bet. I
will tell you that my predictive text thinks that the thing I say most often is, oh dear.
It could be.
Oh dear. Oh dear. And baby pops up very quickly.
Baby, yeah. Sure.
Listen, baby.
That's fun.
But Mox and I will do that. And then we go right off to do the Boston Symphony. We're doing a gig with the Boston Symphony. Or is it Boston Pops? Must be Boston Pops. In May.
Right.
And so we got a...
Stuff's coming up.
We don't get a
days off.
day of rest until June.
Mm.
And it's also nice when we're in Australia, all those shows people have been asking about that we haven't played, like Steve Conrad, Patriot and Perpetual Grace Limited. The interview I did with him, which is one of my favorite interviews he's ever done, that'll be on when we're in Australia.
Yeah.
And
great bank shows coming up.
Great bank shows while I'm in Australia. So we have that. We have that coming up, and all that goodness. I did this whole thing on the show about people who have strange names.
Yeah,
loving the strange names, and how being named Dave is the worst thing, but being named Carr or Penn is a good thing. Someone wrote in. His name is Randon. Randon. I finally feel compelled to write in to provide a counterexample to Penn's claims that adults with weird names like them. I'm a middle-aged man named Randon. What makes this name especially troublesome is that it is one letter away from a very common name. When I meet a new person and tell them my name, I get one of three responses. A, they assume they misheard, and I am named Brandon, and they call me Brandon. At that point, I have to decide whether to correct them or not. If our interaction will be brief and I will never see that person again, I don't correct them. B, they heard Randon but cannot compute this since they have never met anyone with that name. So they awkwardly try to clarify, and I have to explain that it is Brandon without the B. C, the most troublesome is when their brain tells them they must have heard Brandon but didn't quite say Brandon, so they look at me with puzzlement and pity because they believe they have met someone named Brandon who cannot correctly pronounce his own name. And he said, at least I got a joke out of it. I tell people that the country I was born in charged by the letter on the birth certificate, and my parents couldn't afford the B. So there's a counterexample. I got to tell you.
Wouldn't they have gone with Brando?
Brando, yeah.
Or Random. Random is the one I like. That's a good name.
Randon, I understand completely because I am called most of my Starbucks orders, if they don't recognize me, I get Pat or I get Ben. Mm-hmm. And before people said, oh, Penn like Penn and Teller, I got told, I got called Ben all the time. And I know those exact three situations. I used to say Penn like Pennsylvania. when I was first met, but I'm also used to saying with a J, Gillette.
Yes.
So I have to say Penn like Pennsylvania with a J, Gillette. And I hear my children all the time say, you know, Moxie says Gillette with a J, Gillette.
Well, you just haven't ever had the glaze over look of saying my name is Mike. That people just pass out, you know, they stop breathing and fall over because it's just so boring.
Yeah. Well, you remember when I do not, when have I ever called you Mike?
Never.
Yeah. I call you Godot.
Yes.
Because I was out at the same time with Mike Close,
yes,
Mike Jones, Mike Lynn, and Mike Godot. There were 5 of us at lunch, and 4 of them were named Mike. So I said, from now on, Mike Jones will be Jonesy.
Yep.
Mike Godot will be Godot. Mike Close will be Close, and Mike Lynn will be Mickey Lynn.
Yep.
So it became Mickey, Close, Godot, and Jonesy, because Mike is a really stupid, terrible name to have.
Yeah, well.
Dave is even worse.
I love my parents in spite of that.
Yeah. But you have to do that. Well, you know, Katz just came in.
Yeah.
He came in and sat down, and I'm tempted to bring him in this conversation, but I'm not gonna.
Nah, save him.
He's going to do a bank show for while we're doing Fool Us.
Well, we have other stuff to talk about.
We have an important thing to talk about that I wanted. A couple things. First of all, I saw SpongeBob.
You did.
SpongeBob SquarePants, the Broadway musical at the Smith Center. And how many in this room thought the Smith Center was going to work? No. You did? You did? You thought people were going to come out to Smith Center? I thought there was no chance. I thought with all the entertainment in Vegas, we could never support a great theater like the Smith Center.
Only place to see Broadway.
Yeah. But they tried doing Broadway like the Aladdin, and people didn't go.
And a lot of places, but directed at tourists. Locals wanted to see these shows, and they didn't want to have to
go to the Strip. Yeah, you were right. Yeah. I'm glad others were right, because I love it.
I do too.
Yeah, I really love it. So I saw SpongeBob SquarePants, which was weird because Stephen Banks should have written it.
Yes,
you know, and also Andy Paley only wrote some of the gag on SpongeBob SquarePants that different people wrote the songs.
Right.
And it was okay. You know, my children liked it.
My daughter liked it. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it was okay. But the Smith Center is
fantastic. What a nice place.
Fantastic. Yeah. And what bothers me is that my wife, you know, she knows all the rich people in town. I don't.
I know the guy who runs the Smith Center, Myron.
She knows all those guys, and she knows like Tony Shea, and she knows everybody.
Yeah.
So when I go to see stuff, most of the time we have this really fancy box.
Yes.
And I do not like seeing shows as much in a box. I want to be down among
third row center.
Yeah. I want to be where people are, because in the box, one of the things you paying for with the box is a certain kind of privacy. Yes. And if I want privacy, I'll read a fucking book. If I'm
You're out of the show.
Like when I saw David Byrne, which of course is the greatest show that's touring now.
Could not be more envious.
It's a fabulous show. I was right on the floor where people were getting up and dancing and you couldn't see the stage and it was chaos. And I would have enjoyed it so much less had I been in a box. Yeah. I want psychedelic pandemonium because if I want to listen to music purely, I will listen on my fucking stereo. I got a wicked good stereo back from the days when people used the word stereo.
Yeah.
Back from way back
Pyramid speakers.
Yes. You know, I have my Dahlquist. I have a turntable. I have all that stuff. I can listen to music purely. So I want to be on the floor, and I'm always, I couldn't tell my wife that. Because my wife is very proud of having the box. Yeah, and you know,
status thing.
The children have their candy, and there's plenty of room. You know, I want my knees to hit the chair in front of me.
Yeah,
I want people to elbow me. I want to be uncomfortable. You know, unless it's Dylan. That I want to be alone.
In a box.
In a box. But for anything else, I want to have the experience of being there. Yeah. Now, you also said that people are asking about Teller sticking hot peppers up his nose.
Yeah.
A lot of people interested in that. Teller was very, very hopeful. Did you know about this? Sticking hot
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay.
This is crazy talk.
Teller has cluster headaches. And he's had cluster headaches for 2 or 3 years. And they're really wicked bad. And he's been to the Mayo Clinic. He's been to everywhere. All sorts of pain centers, all sorts of drugs. They gave him weird electric shit. And finally, our new hero, Dr. Greger, from nutritionfacts.org.
Who I love listening to.
The greatest guy in the world.
I love the way he talks.
he told Teller that for cluster headaches, they were doing this study about pain. And one of the ways they found to really hurt motherfuckers was to take hot peppers, put it on the end of the Q-tip, and shove it deep in their nose. And it was very painful because it goes right against the nerve.
Yeah, your mucous membranes.
But they found out that after 3 times doing it, the pain went away because that nerve became desensitized.
Huh.
So some smarty pants doctor thought, well, wait a minute, cluster headaches are caused by that nerve. That's the nerve. So if we can beat that nerve into submission, maybe we can cut down the headaches. So Teller went and got hot pepper paste of a certain kind that's used for like arthritis and stuff.
Capsaicin? Something like that.
Yeah. And he got a Q-tip and he started ramming up his nose. Now, what I said was, if the doctor made this up, he's my favorite guy in the world. Getting Teller to stick hot peppers in his nose is
a dream come true.
It's the greatest thing in the world that could ever happen. And so Teller was doing it, and Teller had a great deal of success, but still there were some cluster headaches coming back. So the jury is still out on whether sticking hot peppers up your nose is a good idea. But whether sticking hot peppers up your nose is a good idea, I don't know. But Teller sticking hot peppers up his nose, fabulous idea. Because Teller is the kind of guy who also thinks that's funny. Because Teller comes into rehearsals and goes, I'm sticking hot peppers up my nose. That's the level I've gotten to. That's the level of crazy, fucked up asshole I am. I now stick hot peppers up my nose. So I kind of want to try it.
Okay.
Do you have any desire to stick hot peppers up your nose?
No, I do not.
You do, though, don't you? Ready?
Cut pepper.
You want me to do it right now?
Yeah, you might like it. No, I don't want you to do it right now. But you would like hot peppers up your nose, right?
Maybe.
Okay, that was Penn Sunday School.
That was Penn Sunday School.
Cha-cha-cha.
And to our listening ears,
You become naked.
sang and round us rang the music of the spheres. That was Penn
So we are going to do a bank show right now with Johnny Katz. And it's not a bank show for a long ways away. It'll be right
March
February.
8th. March 8th, I think.
We'll give you March then. So we can talk about stuff that's topical.
Okay.
It's important when you're talking to Katz, because Katz is Vegas. You know we love you.